Let's be honest, when you picture the American economy, you probably see either a Silicon Valley tech bro or a big aging factory in the Midwest. That factory is a symbol of American strength. But for years we've heard it's fading fast. Now, with tariffs on China, the big question is, are these policies helping our factories or are they making things worse? This isn't just an economic debate, it's about real jobs, real towns, and whether your next washing machine is built here or shipped from across the world. Politicians say tariffs will bring jobs back. Business owners say they're just making it more expensive to build things here. So, are tariffs reviving American manufacturing or are they sinking it? Let's dive in and find out. Because this story is about the foundation of our economy, and whether we're rebuilding it or blowing it up. What's a tariff? You've probably heard the word tossed around in the news, especially when countries are arguing about trade. But what does it actually mean, and why does it matter to you? Think of a tariff as a special tax the US government puts on goods that come in from other countries, almost like a cover charge for foreign products trying to enter the American market. Every time you see a Made in China label, there's a good chance a tariff was involved somewhere along the way. The main idea behind tariffs is to make imported goods more expensive. That way, American-made products seem like a better deal, encouraging shoppers to buy local and support US businesses and workers. In 2018, the US government started slapping tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese products. Everything from high-tech machinery to everyday items like garlic and clothing got hit. The move was supposed to punish what the US called unfair trade practices by China. But here's the twist. It's not Chinese companies who pay these tariffs directly. Instead, American importers, businesses that bring these goods into the country, are the ones who get the bill. They often have no choice but to pay up. Those extra costs don't just disappear. They get passed along the supply chain, raising expenses for manufacturers, retailers, and, ultimately for you, the consumer. That's why you might notice prices creeping up on everything from electronics to groceries. So while tariffs are aimed at foreign competitors, the economic pain often lands right here at home, affecting American workers, small businesses, and entire communities. Why should you care? Because tariffs can change the price of your next smartphone, the cost of your car, and even whether your neighbor keeps their job at the local factory. They ripple through the economy in ways you might not expect. In fact, tariffs have helped reshape the world's two biggest economies, the US and China, altering trade flows, business decisions, and even global supply chains. Understanding how tariffs work is key to figuring out whether this economic experiment is a stroke of genius or a recipe for disaster. The impact isn't always obvious, and the results are hotly debated by experts. The evidence? Well, it's complicated. Some say tariffs protect jobs, others argue they cost us more than they help. So what really happens when tariffs go wrong? Let's take a closer look at the real-world consequences. When tariffs make essential parts more expensive, US factories get squeezed. The cost of doing business rises almost overnight, and companies that were already operating on thin margins suddenly find themselves in a tough spot. For many, these extra expenses aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet, they're the difference between staying open and shutting down. Many manufacturers rely on global supply chains, especially for parts from China. These parts are often specialized, and finding alternatives isn't as simple as making a phone call. The interconnectedness of today's economy means that a single tariff can ripple through countless industries, affecting everything from electronics to automobiles. Tariffs jack up costs, making it harder to compete and sometimes forcing companies to raise prices or cut jobs. When expenses rise, businesses have to make tough choices. Do they pass those costs on to customers, risking lost sales, or do they cut back on their workforce to survive? Neither option is easy, and both can hurt local communities. China retaliated with its own tariffs, hitting US exports like soybeans and manufactured goods. Suddenly, American products became more expensive overseas, and demand dropped sharply. Farmers and manufacturers who once relied on steady exports found themselves searching for new buyers, often with little success. Suddenly, American farmers and factories lost access to a huge market. The impact was immediate. Warehouses filled up with unsold goods and fields of crops went unharvested. For many, years of hard work and investment seemed to unravel in a matter of months. Global supply chains were thrown into chaos, forcing companies to scramble for new suppliers, an expensive, risky process. Sourcing new parts can take months, and there's no guarantee the quality or price will match what was lost. The uncertainty makes planning for the future nearly impossible. The result? Uncertainty, higher costs, and lost sales. Businesses are left in limbo, unsure if they'll recover, or if more cuts are on the horizon. The ripple effects can be felt throughout entire towns, as layoffs and closures impact families and local economies. For many factories, tariffs have felt less like protection and more like sabotage. Instead of shielding American jobs, these policies have sometimes made it harder for businesses to survive, let alone thrive. The policy meant to help has, for some, made survival even harder. Small businesses in particular often lack the resources to weather these storms, and the consequences can be devastating. It's a classic case of a simple solution creating complex, painful consequences. What seemed like a straightforward fix has led to a web of new problems, many of which are still being untangled today, and the data backs it up. Studies show that tariffs have led to higher prices for consumers, lower profits for businesses, and job losses in key industries. Let's see what that looks like on the ground. Here's a factory story, a first-hand look at how these policies play out in real life, affecting real people every day. Over the past several years, studies have revealed a striking reality. U.S. importers have shouldered nearly all the costs of tariffs imposed on foreign goods, costs that were meant to protect American industry. Instead of foreign companies paying the price, it's American businesses and consumers who have felt the impact most directly. The result? Tens of billions of dollars have been lost across the economy, and instead of a manufacturing boom, there's been a net loss of jobs in the sector. Factories that once buzzed with activity now stand silent, and workers who relied on these jobs have been left searching for new opportunities. Imagine you're running a factory in Ohio, a state once known as the heart of American manufacturing. Every day, you face tough choices just to keep your doors open. Take something as simple as a circuit board. Before tariffs, importing one from China cost $100. Now with new tariffs in place, that same part costs $125. Multiply that by thousands of units, and the extra expense quickly adds up. As a business owner, you're faced with a dilemma. Absorb the higher costs and watch your profits shrink, or raise your prices and risk losing customers to foreign competitors who aren't facing the same hurdles. This isn't just a hypothetical scenario, it's the daily reality for many American manufacturers. Consider Element Electronics, which opened a TV factory in South Carolina with high hopes of creating American jobs and revitalizing the local economy. But when tariffs drove up the cost of essential Chinese components, their entire business model unraveled. Production slowed, costs soared, and the dream of a thriving American factory faded. Layoffs soon followed, and the community that had pinned its hopes on new jobs and economic revival was left facing uncertainty and disappointment. This story isn't unique. Across the country, industries from boat building to furniture manufacturing have faced similar struggles, with factories idled and workers sidelined. The intention behind tariffs, to boost American manufacturing and restore pride in made-in-USA products, is noble and widely supported. But in practice, tariffs have often acted as a blunt instrument, causing widespread collateral damage and making it harder for many businesses to survive. For countless manufacturers, tariffs have felt more like an anchor weighing them down, rather than a lifeline pulling them to safety. Yet, is it all bad news? Not entirely. Even in tough times, there are glimmers of hope and resilience. Sometimes, disruption forces innovation. Factories are retooling, investing in new technology, and finding creative ways to adapt to the changing landscape. This is where hope enters the story. The movement known as reshoring, bringing manufacturing jobs back to the U.S., is gaining momentum. Let's explore how this new chapter could reshape the future of American industry. Tariffs have forced a reckoning about relying on one country, China, for critical goods. The old logic was, make it wherever it's cheapest. Now companies are looking to bring manufacturing closer to home. This shift, reshoring, means more factories in the US, Mexico, or Canada. It's not just about cost, it's about stability and security. New investments are flowing into high-tech sectors, EV batteries, semiconductors, renewable energy. Government incentives are helping too. Tariffs made the old way harder, pushing companies to build smarter, more resilient supply chains. It's a messy transition, but it could leave us stronger. For some, tariffs have been a painful wake-up call, one that's sparking real change. But is this just a blip, or the start of something bigger? Let's look at the numbers. Since 2021, factory construction in the US has surged, especially in electronics and semiconductors. The CHIPS Act and other policies are fueling billions in investment from companies like Intel and TSMC. These new factories mean thousands of high-paying jobs and less reliance on foreign chips. Clean energy is booming too. The Inflation Reduction Act is driving new EV and battery plants across the country. Over 350,000 new manufacturing jobs have been created since 2021. A real reversal after decades of decline. The trend is clear, companies are betting on America again. But is this boom sustainable? And does it outweigh the damage elsewhere? The answer isn't simple. Let's talk about the growing pains and what they mean for the future. Are we seeing a rebirth or a terminal illness? The picture is mixed. Some factories are closing, others are opening. Are these just growing pains or signs of a deeper problem? For traditional labor-intensive industries like apparel or furniture, tariffs have been brutal, raising costs without making them competitive. For these sectors, decline may be permanent. But for high-tech, advanced manufacturing, semiconductors, EVs, aerospace, this feels like a rebirth. Here, the focus is on skilled workers, automation, and resilient supply chains. Tariffs and incentives have created momentum for these industries. The transition is painful and uneven. New jobs in Arizona don't help laid-off workers in North Carolina. Skills, locations, and opportunities are changing. We're witnessing a structural shift. Clear winners and losers. It's not a simple upgrade for everyone. So, what can we actually do to help? Instead of asking, are tariffs good or bad, we should ask, what should we do now? First, make tariffs smarter, targeted, flexible, and regularly reviewed to avoid hurting U.S. businesses that rely on critical imports. Pressure China on strategic issues, but don't kneecap our own industries. Second, invest in our workforce. New factories need skilled workers. We need more funding for vocational training, apprenticeships, and STEM education. Retrain workers for the jobs of the future, not the past. Third, embrace technology and automation. Robots can handle repetitive tasks, freeing people for higher value work. Government can help with tax credits or grants for automation. The future isn't about bringing back old jobs, it's about creating new, better ones. With the right policies, we can build a stronger, more resilient manufacturing base. But it's up to us to make it happen. So, are US factories doomed? The answer? It's complicated. Tariffs have been a wrecking ball for some, a foundation for others. The ground is shifting and the final outcome isn't clear. We see real pain, job losses, higher costs, and hollowed-out towns. But we also see hope, record investment, new industries, and a chance to build something better. The question isn't just about tariffs, it's about what kind of economy we want. Are we willing to accept short-term pain for long-term gain? How do we support those hurt by this transition? The fate of American factories isn't sealed, it's being decided right now. It's up to you to look at the evidence and decide if we're on the right track.